Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast, where we are changing the mental health narrative, bringing hope and solutions. Here's your host, Timothy J. Hayes, psychologist.
Shariann Tom saw a gap in the world of cancer care. As a 5-time cancer survivor, it became glaringly obvious that the medical world is focused on treating your physical body. But what about the rest of you? As a pioneer in the life and cancer coaching profession, Shariann made this neglected aspect of care her area of specialty and wrote the book, The Call of Cancer, A Loving Pathway to Wholeness, Healing, and Transformation. Well, Shariann, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's delightful to see you again. I'm glad you were willing to do this interview. It's a powerful book you've written, and I'm hoping you can get us started by telling us about how you got into the work you're doing and what drives your passion for it.
A great question. So, like chicken, egg. In 1998, I was first diagnosed with cancer. And I say first diagnosed because I've been diagnosed 5 times. I have gone through 5 different cancer journeys, treatment journeys specifically. And it was the first one that really kind of shook me up, woke me up. I was in corporate America. Yay, corporate America. And noticed that there was a lump in my neck, and there's a whole series of what happened in the book about that, and realized, this is perhaps the biggest pause I'm ever going to take in my life. And it quickly moved me from, every day is just another day, to, wow, my mortality is limited. And there's something for me to pay attention to here, because it was a hard stop. I mean, nobody in my family had the cancer even mentioned in their lives. So it was a first for me. And like everybody else, it was like, my first inclination was, I'm going to die. And so I wasn't just, anywhere else in the line of my mortality. I was rushed to the front. And it was very stark, and it got my attention. And so I did what I needed to do. I tried to be the best patient that I could. And then remission happened, and I was deemed free to go on to live my life. And that was lovely for about a year and a month. And then, surprise, looks like something's here again. And I did that for just a bit. For just a bit. I fascinate myself on the downplay of that. And that second time was not easy. It was harder. They wanted me to do a stem cell transplant, high dose chemo. That's kind of what I considered like the kitchen sink and everything else. And that's when I really paused and said, what is it that I want to do with my life? And I toyed, that's an interesting word that I used, toyed with the idea of this new thing called life coaching. And did a little more investigation, went to a class, tried it on, and went, wow, this is kind of interesting. I felt more alive and more purposeful just in that one class, that I said, I think I'm going to check into that more. And that led me to full on training and deciding I'm going to learn about this thing called life coaching, and maybe it's something that I want to do. Because that corporate job, while it was great and it filled the financial coffers, it wasn't soul fulfilling. Actually, the truth is, the corporate world put micro tears in my soul. And so here was this thing called life coaching. And to make a long story short, I got certified. I met up with people who I wanted to partner with. I went into corporate coaching because that's what I knew, and executive coaching, and realized still, this is not totally feeding my soul. And then the cancer kept showing up, and my business partners were always there to kind of pick me up while I was going through my cancer journeys, while we were doing the coaching in corporations. And I thought, without them, I don't know how I would fare through all of these, I was going to say adventures, but let's just call them journeys. And so I decided, okay, I'm done with the corporate thing. Just put that on the shelf. That served me. Let's just jump in to the pool of the cancer world and let's bring in what I know about life coaching and take all of that work that we've created and put it here and that energy that I had. And so I started the Cancer Journey Institute. We we built an organization that now serves the world. And along the way, I kept saying, we're not reaching everybody. There's more. There's more people out there. There's so many more. This year, we just reached 2 million people with new diagnoses in the United States alone. And it's over 10 million around the world of new diagnoses. That doesn't count all the people who are still going through treatment or the people who have survived and are walking around as survivors and thrivers. So there's just, I mean, you probably know somebody who's gone through cancer. Everybody knows somebody. And so that spurred the book, The Call of Cancer, a loving pathway to wholeness, healing, and transformation. As a guide, as that book that you pick up so that you can make sense, at least in the beginning and through your journey of what's going on with me and this from a mental, emotional, and spiritual side, not the physical. The medical team has that. I don't need to stretch into something bigger than I can grasp, but this is what I needed and what I got from my business partners when I was doing the corporate work. And I wanted everyone to have what I had. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I really like the subtitle, and as I've mentioned to you before, I think, the only criticism that I could find with the book is that it's got cancer in the title, so people who don't have cancer wouldn't get access to this. But this set of ideas as a pathway, creating your own pathway to wholeness and healing and transformation is something that most of the people I know could benefit from. And I've already recommended the book to several people that are therapists that I work with, and people. It's as you just mentioned, it's difficult to be a therapist these days and not have somebody in your caseload who either has cancer or has a family member with cancer. And
Yes.
when that happens, it's so disruptive, specifically because there is this one of the many ways it's disruptive is because there's this complete focus on all of the medical and all of the physical. And there's often, not always, but there's often a complete lack of any focus on the physical, mental, emotional, the mental, emotional, and spiritual, as you mentioned. And your book provides a wonderful series of questions and exercises. And I'm thrilled to have found it as a resource for my work with others and to be able to pass it along to other therapists.
Thank you. We're very proud of it. I mean, there's so much more. We tried to, we've gone through so many renditions to build this particular book, and we had our own book coach while we were going through this. So I really believe in the whole coach community that you can't do this on your own. You need a village, truly. And so she had us like take out so much. She goes, that's book 2, that's book 3. So I really feel like this book is the thing that you grab onto, that you have on the side of your nightstand, and you grab when you're just feeling uneasy. And for the therapist, I love that idea because there's tools in here and concepts that really make a difference in getting yourself righted again. It's like something to latch onto as you're going through this really challenging journey.
So, why the name The Call of Cancer?
You know how I said it shook me and it woke me up? It really is this kind of wake up call to reevaluate. And I was running full speed ahead. I wasn't going to take a pause to even think about, oh, am I on the right path? Is this what I really want to do? Am I fulfilled? I would get that in feeling inside like, oh, I'm so exhausted. Do I really want to do what I'm doing? But is this my passion? And it wasn't. So the call is that it's actually this moment when you get your diagnosis call. It's like bucket of ice cold water. And it's like, okay, you thought you were going down this road. Surprise, you're now going down this road. And what do you want that road to look like? Because we're going to hold you for a little while, says the medical team, and they do. But after that, what are you going to do? And try to go back to your old life? It's impossible. Literally, I could say that with every bit of confidence. It's impossible. So what are you going to do? And so if you can see this as a call to more of you, more of your life, more of you being in charge of that life and being really conscious and aware of who you are at your core and how you want to live your life, what kind of life you want to live. Whew, how's that feel for a call?
And what it does for you energetically when you feel like you're answering a call and it resonates with you, and how, you know, we still have medical doctors that treat us as though we are hunks of flesh and it's all the physical, despite the fact that our top minds have taught us that this stuff that we call the body is just energy. And the energy systems shift and change, and the immune system doesn't work so well when we've got mental emotional stress that's off the charts, and the immune system works a lot better when we feel in alignment and we feel at peace or we feel energized and motivated. And the immune system is the thing that heals the cancer. The doctors don't heal the cancer. The treatments they have kill off some of the cancer, but it's the body that heals. And so a book like yours that helps people recognize, okay, wait a minute, there's a reason why really good surgeons often refuse to do any kind of elective surgery on a patient who's depressed, because depressed people statistically significantly more often don't come out of the surgery. So they know at one level that the mental is not separate from the physical. And yet, so often when our medical professionals are talking to us about cancer, they're not including, as your book does, the emotional, the spiritual, etc.
You are so right. It's all interconnected. You can't just heal the body or attempt to heal the body without the other parts of it. And you're right. I love the story you just told about, you know, you a depression in a body impacts every part of it, which is why it's so fascinating that, they're lethargic and they have no motivation and they may get a secondary illness because of the depression. It's like they're so connected. And there's not enough work on this inner work, especially through a cancer journey. And that's why the focus is on cancer, because the lack of that understanding or the focus on healing the totality is not there yet.
Well, and because I'm old enough to have been through this with friends and family members and have the parade of people, the support teams come in, the physical therapists, the occupational therapists, the wound specialists, the nurses, the hospice people. I've heard so many stories about people who have wounds that won't heal until after a family member comes and makes amends, and that stress of the relationship gets relieved and there's a connection, and then all of a sudden the wounds start to heal. And they weren't healing with all of the other physical attempts and techniques that were being done until after the mental emotional connection in the patient is resolved.
You've got it. And then they call it miraculous, or or radical remission. And it's like, wait. You don't just heal one part. You heal the whole thing because of just what we said. And there was something else that I wanted to say. When somebody's feeling pain, and so I might get some pushback from you or even some of your audience on this, but from what we say is when somebody's feeling pain, there is kind of a reason underneath that. And it is psychosocial, whether it's psychosocial pain that they're feeling or whether it's a physical, sensation that they're feeling. And we say it's about a longing that is not being fulfilled by ourselves. Like there's a longing that's there that's not being met. And so that causes dis-ease, which leads to disease. It's not that specific. It's not going to be like, oh, I can prove that to every single one. But that's what we see. It is that mental, emotional, spiritual being all playing together, saying, I long. That word. It's so resonant. When I say it, it almost reverberates in my neck. I have a longing that is not being fulfilled. And there's pain to that.
And many people are feeling that energy, but not sure what the longing is, what the target is. And that's why your exercises can be so helpful for people. I think about the work of people like Bruce Lipton, where he's seen at a cellular level that when we initiate a mental emotional stress, the cells in the body change their functioning and they don't function well. They don't take in nutrients, they don't repair worn out parts, they don't eliminate waste. And so if we stay at too high a mental emotional stress level long enough, this is a really good way. You can see it at a cellular level. This is a really good way to initiate decay and death in the cellular system.
And I'm so glad you're bringing up stress because that is, I believe, again, this is Shariann speaking, is the genesis of it all, of the dis-ease, the illness, the discomfort. It's like if we can go back to what's first recognizing that we're in stress and then recognizing, what's causing that stress? Can I pinpoint that?
And for a lot of people, what they don't understand is that I'm the author of my stress. It's how I choose to interpret and respond to the outside events that generates the stress I feel, which is why we can have 4 or 5 people working on a project and 2 or 3 of them are having a great time and 2 or 3 of them are just absolutely pulling their hair out and wringing their fingers about, oh my gosh, how are we going to get this done? And they're all working on the same project. But if I interpret this as, oh, woe is me if I don't get this done or if it doesn't come out perfect, then I internally create a tension most often is unresolvable and it just keeps spinning. There's that documentary Stress Portrait of a Killer that people can watch on YouTube these days for free, where is a really good description of the power of our stress on the immune system and the health. Even things like they track the model of ulcers, and they used to talk about it as this is the businessman's disease. And then decades later, somebody identified, oh, here's a microbiome problem, and if we give an antibiotic, it gets rid of it. Oh, now so an ulcer isn't a businessman's disease. It's a result of this stuff in your gut eating a hole in your stomach lining. And then years later, somebody said, wait a minute, have we checked to see how many people have that microbiome problem? Oh my God, almost everybody's got it. But only the people who have a stress level goes through the roof end up with ulcers. So now we're back to understanding that if my stress level goes through the roof, my immune system functioning gets so lowered that now this proliferation of this gut bacteria eats a hole in my stomach. So we're back to understanding that it's the stress that I create the mental, emotional interpretation I place on something and the stress and conflict within me, that if it gets to a certain level, it suppresses my immune system and leaves me open to all kinds of things, not just ulcers.
Exactly. I mean, you said it so eloquently with the science. And I love that there's science to prove this. But we still do that interpretation of, oh, we want the magic pill is what it is, instead of doing the work. Because when we say stress, and I say, what's the stress? And you go, I don't know. That almost seems like that's an acceptable answer because we're looking for that microbiome that can be resolved by that antibiotic. And then, okay, I don't have to do any of that other work, which is really the heavy lifting, right? It's like if I'm experiencing stress from that project or this situation, then how do I handle that? Again, it's on me. I can't transport it or give the responsibility to somebody else to take care of it.
And of course, we're in this area where it gets, very, very sketchy for a lot of people. And they say, oh, so you're saying that I caused my own cancer and it's all I'm to blame and it's all my
Yes.
fault. And that I only have cancer because I'm not living a lifestyle that's healthier. And none of that is what's being implied here. We're simply talking
Right.
about how
Thank you.
if you have a sense of purpose and focus in your life, if you can find a way to interpret, or these days I say, if you can find a way to spin the kaleidoscopic wheel of interpretations until you find one that's neutral or positive, and do that time after time for whatever's going on in your life, your stress level comes down, your immune system comes back up, things start to go better. But if you keep landing on this pre-programmed negativity, whether you got it from your family of origin or our culture, wherever it comes from, and you just keep putting those negative interpretations on things, you send your stress level through the roof, you lower your immune system, and then you're just really lucky if you don't get disease after disease after disease.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And so it's like, yes, we are not prophesizing or saying that this is how it is, period. There are already always gray areas, and there's the environmental factors and all of that. But my experience working with our clients is that when they're engaged and excited about their life and what they're doing, and they feel good about who they are, especially at the core, the core of them and what they bring to this world, there's a purpose here. It doesn't mean that you have to be doing something. It's like you're put here as part of this collective. We're all connected. So if I feel like I'm connected and I know who I am, that feeling of being a part is so much more than solo. And then all of a sudden stress comes in and I feel separate and the swirl starts happening. And then there you go. Immune system starts plummeting and things happen.
So if you get, I don't know how many times you've revisited this book, but what's one of your favorite exercises from the book that you like to work with your clients?
Mm. Well, I think this is going to sound redundant, but one of the most valuable tools is your values and knowing what they are, knowing what's most important to you. Because we so often, when I was talking about separateness, we can feel separate and want to fit in. And so when we want to fit in, we oftentimes ignore what we really need or what we really want, which is our values, and we give our power away to somebody else. And so in that sense, knowing what your values are, the number one thing that's most important to you, the number two, the number three, and live your life in accordance with them. So for me, just for example, family is number one, freedom's number two, creativity and adventures number three. If I pay attention to those and make sure that those elements are in my life and the exercises in the book to do that, then I'm happy. And what I hear from people is, I just want to be happy. And I'm like, you have your own secret recipe of happiness, your happiness, right there. But we look outside for happiness. What do I have to do? Where do I go? Over there. Hey, Tim, Dr. Tim, what should be my happiness? How should I get there? And so for me, that's one of the most important exercises in here is knowing what yours is.
Have you heard about the passion test by Janet Atwood?
I have not.
So this is basically what you're talking about, only what she did, and she's got a book about it and an online presence, of course. But the passion test has you list the things you're most passionate about and then rank them in priority, highest priority down. And let's say that you list 10 things that you have a passion for or an interest in, and then you rate them from 1 to 10 as number 1 is the most important. Then you hand that to someone else who's going to interview you about these.
Okay.
And one at a time, they pair them up, number 1 and number 2. And they ask you, if you could only have one of these, which would it be? Oh, they're both equal. They're right up there. And one, I can't choose. No, you have to choose. Play the game, right? And choose. So let's say that you choose number 1, and then you compare number 1 to number 3, and now all of a sudden number 3 becomes the one. And then you compare 3 to 4, et cetera. You go, and then you do that again and you cycle through again until you've got your top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've really been squeezed about thinking about it, feeling it. What would it be like if you couldn't have this? And now you've got your passion. And you've got a list of these 5 things that you're passionate about, and you keep that top of mind day in and day out and watch how your life changes. Watch how it motivates you to make different choices in how you spend your time, intelligence, money, and energy.
Exactly. And ours is similar to that. I love that
Exactly.
process.
Yeah. That's what made me think about it when you said values and your top 3. It's just exactly, and this is just what Ms. Atwood has done with this is just strengthen it because now you bring somebody else in to coach you through it and really
Yeah.
consider what if you couldn't ever have this other one again and it's compared with this one.
Right, right. And I have to say that values change from the beginning of a cancer journey to the end. Something happens. You change. My number 1 used to be freedom. That was above anything else. I had to have my freedom, and that's what was most important. And I realized through the exercise, however you choose to do it, I like having a coach with me too to help me really get it right, is that I'm okay with if I don't have my freedom, but I need to have my family. And my family is not just my familial family. It's my friends. It's my community in the cancer journey. And it's this family. And without that, life isn't worth living.
Yeah, I have worked with people who've done different things, whether it's the passion test or their primary purpose, their mission statement for life. And over the years, it definitely can change.
Mhm.
One that comes to mind is a woman whose primary drive was about teaching the work that was most useful to her and traveling and getting it into as many hands as possible. And then her parents got older and they needed help. And all of a sudden, that was a more of a priority than traveling around the country and teaching this stuff. So it's absolutely okay. It's highly advisable to let my values shift, these kinds of values at different stages in my life and when my family or friends or my career needs more or less of it, my energy in order to be in balance.
Right. I also look at it from what brings you alive and purposeful. We all need to have a purpose. And so I could see where your friend be found that taking care of her parents and really treasuring those years that were there, that she could be of service and show her love through the care, and that felt valuable to her and good.
And it's time limited, right? So then the
Right.
parents run through their cycle of life and they pass away, and then it's time to reevaluate. Okay, what do I do with
Mm,
my time, intelligence, money, and energy now?
exactly. Exactly. So these things that we focus on are about strengthening that inner part of the individual, exactly what you're talking about. And that makes, I'm just going to say in your words, it makes our immune system stronger. It's fascinating that it has a correlation, but just you and I talking here, I could see how we get it because we've seen it and we know that. And it isn't a magic pill that I can give somebody and go, see, there you go. Now you're going to be healed. It is work that we need to do because Miss Atwood's process is not easy. You still have to do the work to find out what your values are. The same with the tools in my book.
Well, and as with your book, most of these good tools have as their primary goal helping an individual understand him or herself better.
Yeah. I do say any good tool is a good tool for life and can be applied to anyone. But because my community didn't have enough, and I say the cancer community because I feel like after 5 go rounds, I'm like, I really own this community. I'm in there with them. If there wasn't anything, and I wanted something that helped them know I'm still special. Yes, sometimes you feel special while you're going through treatment because you have this medical team that's, putting you first and foremost. But when you're done, you feel so alone and on your own. And I wanted something to catch them too. So that's why there's cancer in the title, coming back to your original question.
So tell us a little bit more about this, whatever you call it, clinic, foundation, movement that you have.
The Cancer Journey Institute was put together first because I felt alone. Even though I had a great team, had a great medical team, I was lucky about that. And I have a very big family, but I still felt alone going through this odyssey because nobody was in my skin. And so when I became part of the coaching community, I realized that there were people who, while they weren't in my skin, had this way of listening, had this way of asking me questions, had this way of being with me that made me feel like I was really seen, heard, and gotten. And those three things are so important in healing. Like, not only did I feel seen, heard, and gotten by them, they helped me feel seen, heard, and gotten by myself. Like I got me instead of feeling like, oh, there's a stranger in the skin. I felt gotten. And when you feel that, it is this incredible way of accepting, feeling accepted, and then accepting myself. And so I thought, wow, this was so profound and so helpful and supportive through this very challenging and sometimes, soul stealing journey of cancer that I'm like, okay, if I got the chance to have this, why can't other people? And so instead of just doing cancer coaching myself, which I did for many years, I took my body of work to the local hospital, which was the University of San Francisco, UCSF. And I said, hey, I've got this body of work. I'd love to bring it to your cancer folks. And here's what it looks like. And I really thought that they were going to push back at me because a lot of it wasn't what anybody was typically doing. And they said, I like what you're saying. See what you're doing. How are you going to help all of the patients that we have? And I just thought, whoa, okay, that's a lot. I can probably take 20, but I know there's more than 20 people being diagnosed with cancer and going through their journey. So at that point, I thought, okay, I need help. I am not the only one who can do this. I need to get more coaches. But I had this body of work, and it's like, this is what I went through. This is what I used. How can I train other people to do that? And I jumped in again into the pond and said, all right, I'm going to build this. I'm going to build this school, this institute. I'm going to train individuals, survivors or caregivers. It didn't matter. Anyone who had a cancer experience, and teach them these tools so that they can propagate this work. They can take it and they can make it available to other people who are going through a diagnosis or have even finished their journey and are going back into the world. That part when I was talking about feeling so separate. And for the caregivers who are walking along their beloved on this journey, going, I wish I could take it away. I don't know what to do. It was tools and concepts that just felt like the wind beneath your wings, like you weren't doing this alone, that there were things that to hold you up and carry you through. And I take everything as it's an experiment so that I don't get so bogged down in this has to work, this has to work. And as the experiments were happening, I was watching people transform and I was watching people grow and I was watching people come alive and wanting more for themselves and from their lives. And I thought, okay, we've got something here. Let's keep training. And I'm fortunate enough that it's now all over the world. We keep growing, we keep expanding what we do. But the core of it is that we're working with individuals through this journey to help them feel powerful again. Because one thing that cancer does is it strips you of feeling power. It when your body feels weak and you don't have the energy to even get out of the chair, there's still the inner workings inside. So how can we amplify and strengthen them so that they can get you moving even when the body is tired and strained? So that's what we do. We train individuals to be cancer journey coaches. And we have the journey in there because that speaks to the mental, emotional, and the spiritual part.
And so is the Cancer Journey Institute centered out by you in California?
We are headquartered here in the San Francisco Bay Area, but we're across the United States. We're in Canada. We're in Europe. We're in Asia Pac. We're in South Africa. We're not in Latin America yet, but that's coming soon.
Wonderful.
Wonderful to know that at least there's these like satellites out there reaching out to their community. And I hear it all the time. I never knew this existed. Yeah, because we're so body centric and this changes the mindset.
And so how do you get that word out there about the Cancer Journey Institute? Yeah, how do most people find out about the Cancer Journey
What's so
Institute?
most surprising to me too is that people find us through a Google search. So it's our online presence. We have a podcast also that we put out a new episode every Friday to educate. We have the book and we promote that. That's available through Amazon and also your local bookstores. If you just want to ask for it, they'll get it for you.
What's the name of the podcast?
The podcast is the Cancer Journey Podcast.
Okay.
And that's available on YouTube and I think it's Spotify.
And so what's the primary website for people to use?
Primary website is thecancerjourney.com. So if you just put that into your browser, it'll pop up right there.
Excellent. Well, as I've said, greatly appreciated the book. I've already recommended it to a number of different therapists, and I think there are powerful tools in there that pretty much any adult, 30 or beyond could benefit from. And I greatly appreciate your having done this work, writing the book, and taking the time to share it with us.
Well, thank you. We're very proud of it. And I hope that more people go to Amazon and get it. It's an easy read. We've made it very easy to digest, and it's also available on audio. So an Audible. So if you're driving, it's not one that's going to put you to sleep. Hopefully, it'll be very entertaining as for any long haul. It's not as serious. When we think about cancer, it's like, oh, cancer. We're tenured travelers, so we try to hold it as a journey. It's all part of the journey.
And as you said, it isn't all about all the technical aspects of the medical physical model. It's about your mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of your life, whether you have cancer or not. But specifically in this case, It's what the call to cancer might help you awaken to.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Tim.
Shariann Tom saw a gap in the world of cancer care. As a 5-time cancer survivor, it became glaringly obvious that the medical world is focused on treating your physical body. But what about the rest of you? As a pioneer in the life and cancer coaching profession, Shariann made this neglected aspect of care her area of specialty and wrote the book, The Call of Cancer, A Loving Pathway to Wholeness, Healing, and Transformation. She has developed techniques, tools, and frameworks geared toward the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of a cancer journey. And she's established the Cancer Journey Institute in 2012. This year, she has received the Great Companies International Women Entrepreneur Award, the American Lung Association's Outstanding Mother of the Year 2024, the recognition of being one of 25 finalists of Success Magazine's Change Makeover Award of 2024, and the International Coaching Federation's 2024 Impact Award for Coach Educator.
You've been listening to the On Your Mind podcast, offered by Journey's Dream, where we support people through mental health challenges to a place of true and lasting well-being. If you love our show, we invite you to visit onyourmindpodcast.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our helpful resources. Thank you for listening.